Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
Well, I really had no idea how to come into today's show, so there's some music from Firestarter. And a good hearty welcome to Good Movie Monday. My name's Glenn Cochran. The other guy's Ben Helwig. This is the weekly podcast dedicated to nerdy cinematic ramblings. Do you like Firestarter, Ben? That's a daddy-daughter movie.
I have actually never seen Firestarter.
Oh, wow. You got two to catch up
I
on.
got two.
Three if you
I haven't
consider the
seen-
sequel.
I haven't seen any of the movies that you've chosen music for this episode for.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, what are you here for?
Sometimes I don't know. I ask myself, like, have you watched any movies at all, Ben?
It makes me wonder. Hey, we have a special guest on today's show. Actor, writer, producer Michael Lombardi. He's not at the desk. You can stop looking around. Nothing like a sight gag on a podcast.
It's my stock and trade, my friend.
He was one of the main cast members on that TV series Rescue Me with Dennis Leary. Do you remember that one?
I do, where he's the fireman.
That's right. I think they were all firemen.
They're all firemen. It's a show about a bunch of New York firefighters.
This year he's been catching people's attention with the new Daddy Revenge horror movie called The Retaliators. And that's had a digital release recently. So we're going to mark the occasion and we'll seize the opportunity to talk about Daddy's Little Girl movies. That's the theme of today's show.
We actually played that film at Monster Fest last year.
Retaliators.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a banger, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first and foremost, happy new week to you, mate.
Yes. Yeah, it all starts again.
How have you been for the last week?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I've been, working hard or hardly working.
Preparing for the show?
Like non-stop preparing for the show. Actually, I watched both my films nice and early on Thursday, one after the other, and I'm really happy with this week because sometimes I don't have as much time as I would like to prep for the show.
Yep.
And so it's usually one new film that I haven't seen before and one film that I'm familiar with. And it's difficult when you do it that way because you never know if the film that you're watching for the first time is actually going to be any good.
That's right.
And you're just like, oh, can't talk about that. Can't talk about that on Good Movie Monday because it's a shit movie.
Well, I went down that road this week with one that I'd never seen before and watched it specifically for this show. So it's a good thing I liked it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Well, me too. Like, I mean, both of these movies are ones that I've been meaning to watch for years.
Sure.
And so it was like, I think that's the thing, which I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but at the start of the year when you were like, if you got any ideas for themes for the show, I just looked at my Blu-ray collection and I was like, I really want to watch that, but I just never got around to it. So I just built themes around the movies that I wanted to watch.
Yep.
To force myself to watch them. The downside of that is I have the memory of a goldfish, and then when you tell me what the theme for next week is, I'm like, who thought of that
I know.
stupid theme? When are we going to do one of mine? And they're, oh, it is one of
Yeah,
mine.
you've-
And what were the films that I wanted to talk about? No idea.
Yeah, well, I had that moment this week, and I'll actually explain that in a little bit. But yeah, this was your choice for theme, and that's because Retaliators interview came along, and I'm like, how the hell are we going to tie this in? And you had that light bulb moment. You're like, hang on.
Daddy's Little Girl. Well, funnily enough, I thought, at the time I was like, it'll give me the perfect excuse to watch Hardcore, which I've never seen.
Yeah.
And I had on Blu-ray for years.
Yep. Well,
Did not watch Hardcore.
well, I mean, the thing with Daddy's Little Girl as a theme, it could go in any direction. Because on one
Any
hand,
direction.
you've got Death Wish. On the other hand, you've got What a Girl Wants.
Yeah.
Which I know that's one
And
of yours,
the one that I kept thinking of, what's the one, and now I can't remember the guy's name. He's Ron Swanson in Parks and Rec.
Oh, Nick Swartzen. No, Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
And there's the one with him and his daughter in the band just
Yes!
before she goes off to college. And I was like, Oh, I really wanted to watch that.
That was good. I like that one. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Anyway, it's also October, so there's plenty of horror.
There's a lot of
Daddy's Little
horror,
Girls
yeah.
kind of movies.
And I just went with one horror and one.
Yeah, I kind of went the same. Went one sort of edgy movie and then one light and fluffy one. But anyway, speaking of October, how's your Halloween viewing been coming along? Has it been coming along? Have you caught much?
I've watched a new Halloween film
Or two?
or two.
I watched.
Yeah, actually, I had to finish because as listeners will discover later in the week when they watch our Facebook videos, our YouTube videos, which they all do.
Yeah, of course.
We went to the premiere of Halloween Ends.
Yep.
And I had to
Catch
up and watch the second half of Halloween Kills because I kind of stopped halfway through, and I don't regret that decision having watched the second half of it because it only gets like I actually kind of enjoyed the beginning part with the cops and the going through the house. I kind of thought, why didn't they do that in the first Halloween reboot?
Mhm.
But then it just got kind of silly.
Yep.
After that, I mean, like any time where somebody gets a gun knocked out of their hand, but it turns around and shoots themselves in the face. That's aces in my book. But the annoying kids, they only killed one of the annoying kids.
Well, have that rant on the video, my friend.
Yeah.
I actually watched the new Hellraiser last week. That movie dropped onto Netflix or one of the streaming services.
Yeah, I couldn't be a little less
I
enthusiastic
thought
about
it was shithouse, and yet people seem to be glowing about it. Like
All the reaction I've seen on the internet, I mean,
yeah, I'm seeing both sides, but usually it's the vitriol at the moment's winning out.
yeah.
I don't get it. I just didn't like it. Anyway,
But that's the thing. I always think that's the thing with these new movies. They're not for fans of the franchise, really. Like, they're trying to cater to them, but they're really for,
newcomers.
16-year-olds who won't watch a movie made more than 5 years ago.
Yep. I completely agree with you, and Clive Barker seems to have jumped on the bandwagon praising this one. And he's like,
Well,
"Oh,
I'm sure they backed up a Brinks truck.
I feel like he's sort of preaching to the choir and the woke train because he goes, I'm now going to have to go back and write a new book with the female Cenobite, like female Pinhead. It's like, just give us something new, mate.
I don't understand why she had to be Pinhead.
Well, that's
There's
right.
There's the female Cenobite.
This is the thing, right? So, I mean, we're going on massive tangent here. Hey, but the original Hellraiser is a daddy-daughter film, so there's that. But come to daddy.
It is. Well, it's a daddy daughter and a
Uncle
and a
sleep.
mother uncle. Is it? Is it her mother or is it her stepmother?
Stepmother.
Stepmother, stepmother, and the uncle.
But she's trying to help the dad. Anyway, where was I going with this? I've forgotten. I had a point.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't help you there, mate.
No, you can't. Fuck me. Anyway,
No, thank you.
that's a really
Maybe next time.
frustrating point in the show for listeners. He was really on a roll then.
He's mid rant
Nearly spat water at you again. Far out. Anyway. Oh, no, that was my point. We're back to it. So the whole Hellraiser thing that I've been banging on for years is Pinhead was only applicable to the first 1, 2, and 3. Like, Clive Barker's story, he wasn't a central character. He didn't even have a name.
No, even in okay, admittedly, I've only seen 1 and 3.
Yeah.
And 3 was now 25 years ago.
Yep.
And I watched it for dodgy reasons, which I won't go into. So I can only really talk about the first one.
Yeah.
And the first one, like, yes, Pinhead is the main Cenobite, but that doesn't mean much. Like, he literally has a couple of lines.
Yeah, this is the point. Like, his whole purpose is that he is just one of Hell's servants.
He's just
right?
one of the 3.
Yeah, and therefore
He's the one that talks because he doesn't have the hooks in his mouth.
I would always, and he's the one that's human story. We didn't even know that at the time. Was educated, right? So he had the smarts, but. The whole point of Hellraiser to me isn't Pinhead. And so if you want to improve Hellraiser or make it good again, don't focus on the boogeyman.
What's his name is the main villain? Frank.
Yeah, that's right. The humans, the villains, right?
Frank is the
Julia
villain.
in part 2 is the monster, right? And Clive Barker originally wanted her to be the focus of the film as the Freddy Krueger of Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And it's just the fans latched onto the image.
And that's the thing that doesn't make sense, really, about the first Hellraiser. Is that, like, Frank is into all the weird fucking S&M shit.
Yeah.
But Julia isn't.
No.
She gets
a thirst for blood later, but it's not.
She enjoys killing the dudes, but it's like that. Yeah, it's like an S&M thing.
Yeah.
receiving and giving are different things.
That's right.
She seems to be into the giving of pain, not into the receiving of it. So the whole point of the box and stuff, she wouldn't be into that.
No,
You know, all
no.
the-
She just wanted Frank.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Anyway, what a tangent. Better get the show actually started.
We should call it Geriatric Movie Monday.
Well, if we keep going, it'll become that.
It'll come there, yeah.
Well, anyway, so I assume that everybody that listens to this show listens to us on the Newsly app. I mean, that's the premier place to get us.
You know what they say about assumptions, Glenn? They're
Well,
often correct.
We would like you. We would like you to listen to us on the Newsly app. Please download that app onto your phone. It's completely free, and it is it's a super app that just tailors news to your liking. You can punch in your criteria, and it will funnel the news you want to hear. Or it could be, other podcasts. There's lots of other podcasts on there.
And if there is nothing that we have not learnt, if there's anything that we have learnt from the internet, is that people like being in a sounding chamber of their own ideas, echoed back at them
That's right.
over and over again.
Yeah,
It's my favourite episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the one where he figures out how to sleep with with hipsters or whatever they are, whatever she is. He goes, all he does is just repeat back to her exactly what she says. And your next minute he's sleeping with her.
That's how you win me over.
Yeah.
Anyway, get that podcast. And if you want a month of free premium service, we have a code for you. Monday without the O, MNDAY. Grab it now. No other episode of Good Movie Monday is complete without the help of our friends. So coming up, we have Jarrett from Monster Fest. He's going to give you all the new release information for the week. Guillermo Troncoso from Screen Realm has the movie news, and those cheeky fellas from Bonehead Weekly in Kentucky have their own little slant on today's theme as well. So keep listening. That's coming up, plus our interview with Michael Lombardi. It's a chock-a-block show, mate. Chock-a-block.
Full of beans.
Hey, this is Jarrett and welcome to PE Class. Let's start with some news. After opening in cinemas last Thursday, David Gordon Green's finale in his Halloween trilogy, Halloween Ends, is scheduled to hit home entertainment locally on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray and DVD on January 25th, just in time for the public holiday on the 26th, which means you can spend Australia Day, or whatever you prefer to call it, with Michael Myers. Now moving on to this week's new releases. First up, we've got Umbrella, and they're releasing Midnight Spares on Blu-ray. This one's joining the Ozploitation Classics line, and Quentin Masters' Aussie sprint car racing flick comes loaded with special features and also includes a 16-page comic book adaptation by Dark Oz, the mob behind the comic book adaptations of Death Cheaters and Stunt Rock that came with their respective Ozploitation Classic Blu-rays. Next up from Umbrella, The Possessed. It's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. This one's a demonic possession horror, and it's from Aussie genre filmmaker Chris Sun, the guy behind Charlie's Farm and Gore. Now the Blu-ray comes complete with everything from interviews to deleted scenes to bloopers. Moving on to Viavision, and they're releasing a batch of cinema classics to their imprint line, including Storm Center, I Am the Law, and Golden Boy. Then Roadshow are releasing a pair of recent theatrical releases on DVD. Yes, just DVD, no Blu-ray. The first up, Jeepers Creepers Reborn, the fourth film in the Jeepers Creepers franchise, and Good Luck to You, Leo Grande on DVD. Also from Roadshow and from the Warner catalogue, they're releasing Mortal Kombat Legends Snowblood on Blu-ray and DVD. This is actually an R-rated animated affair. Do you remember when they had to sanitize the video game of Mortal Kombat on consoles back in the 90s? Well, now they're releasing R-rated animated content from the Mortal Kombat universe. It's crazy. Then the last distributor I will mention for this week is Madman, and from the Acorn Media catalogue come two Shudder originals. The Amusement Park coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. This is the once thought to be lost George A. Romero film. Then This Is Gua coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, a feature documentary on the intergalactic barbarian metal band. Then also from Madman, Flux Gourmet is hitting DVD. This is the latest feature from acclaimed filmmaker Peter Strickland. Then the last title I'll mention that Madman are releasing is from the Defiant Screen Entertainment catalogue, and it's called The Curse of Rosalie. It's coming out on DVD. This is the next film to feature the Black Phone's breakout actor, Madeline McGraw. Anyway, that's it for me for this week, so until next time, stay physical.
Dude, that Good Luck, Leo Grande. That, if you ever want to see Emma Thompson get nutty and dirty, that's the movie you want to watch.
I thought that if you wanted to see that, you'd watch The Tall Man with Jeff Goldblum.
Well, that depends what end of the spectrum you you want to see her. I actually really like that movie. It's a sexy movie, and she's very sexy in it. And
Are we talking about The Tall Man or Leo Grant?
Well, take your pick. You can start with The Tall Man and work your way towards it.
Yeah.
Finish off with Leo Grant.
Do you remember when she was on The Young Ones on that University Challenge episode?
Yeah.
She, yes, I remember her being very attractive
That's
back then, and you're like,
I still find her very attractive in a very milfy, gilfy kind of way. So,
she's okay. She's no Sandra Bullock.
well, Sandra Bullock is about 20 years behind.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, also,
I don't see numbers, Glenn.
Neither do I. That's my point. And I'm actually looking forward to
perverted.
Jeepers Creepers Reborn. That's just in time for Halloween. Haven't caught it yet. Missed the screenings. But can't go without mentioning that Guar documentary that Jared just mentioned. It's fucking awesome. Have you watched that?
I haven't. We wanted it for Monster Fest last year, and it didn't happen.
It ended up on Shudder. They've just released it onto physical media. Far out. It's great. Like, it's better than I could have imagined. Like,
It's everything you wanted from a Guar doco.
yeah, totally. Like, it really good. It's a deep dive too.
Yeah, right.
I used to love it when
It'd be like if somebody made a Tism doco. You're
yeah.
like, yes, I
I'd be
want to
into-
fucking
I
know.
would be into that.
Yeah.
All my friends have had more sex than me. Fact.
I'm a wanker. I'm a wanker. I'm a wanker. I'm a wanker.
If you're one of our new listeners, you probably have no idea what the fuck is going on here. But Jarrett, he's a good mate of ours, and he is from Monster Fest, as are you, our ever reliable co-host. And speaking of Monster Fest, that's right around the corner, mate.
Yes, it is.
Gearing up. And I think last week you guys just dropped the first wave of programming as well as the artwork.
The first wave of programming for Melbourne,
Yes.
I believe later this week
Mm-hmm.
will be the first wave announcement
For the rest.
for Brisbane, Sydney, Adelaide, and Perth.
Yes. So the Melbourne leg is November 24th to December 4th. Some of the movies that you guys dropped last week at the Price We Pay, which is that the director of Midnight Meat Train?
Yeah, Ryuhi Kitamura.
Yeah.
I hope I'm getting that right. I should have had notes.
There's a movie there called The Offering.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that one, but I think it sounded pretty good when I read about it. The Cost. That's the
The Coth. The Coth.
The Cloth.
Touching Cloth. Do you remember that TV show? Yeah, no, The Cost. Matthew Holmes.
Which is a new sort of revenge thriller. It's pretty hard edged, I believe. And he's a friend of the show. We've had him on twice. Love what he does. He's the guy that made Legend of Ben Hall. So this is a new kind of direction for him.
Yeah.
He's been doing historical sort of bushranger type of movies, and this one is a contemporary hardcore kind of thriller.
Tale of Revenge.
Yes. On the Edge, is that the new Soska Sisters one?
Yeah. Yeah, and that movie is full on.
Yeah.
In
So
a
this
great
is
way.
it's their first original in a while, isn't it? Because they've been doing sort of other people's
They've had
scripts or-
other. No, I think they've still been writing most of their stuff, but it's been based on other people's IP.
Yes,
to use
right.
the Hollywood term.
So you See No Evil 2 and your Rabbit.
and
Yep,
stuff like
gotcha.
that. Yeah. So this one is it's a bit different. It's not kind of your kind of hardcore, more slashery type horror film. It's a lot darker. It's actually a lot darker than that.
Yeah,
it's a
right.
lot more full on, and
Cool.
yeah, I think fans are going to be pretty impressed by it.
I mean, the Soska Sisters, friends of Monster Fest in general,
Well, I think we've played. Trying to think now. I think we've played every one of their films.
Yeah,
or if we missed one, it was because it was owned by a conglomerate who wouldn't let us play it. But we have tried
And-
to play every single one of their films. I think the only one we didn't play was Dead Hooker in the Trunk.
Yeah. Because they hadn't been on the map yet. Like,
Well, no, Monster Fest didn't exist then.
oh, right, there you go. That's why.
Um,
Well, there
Yeah.
you go. And they're for a while there, they were like mascots of Monster Fest. Like they came
Yeah.
down. I think you chaperoned them, but that was fun.
yeah, they've come out twice for Monster Fest.
Yeah, amazing.
Um,
Good fun, good value. Rib Spreader, we've got to talk about that for a moment. This is
Yeah.
the guy that runs the what do you call it? The
Trashorama?
Trashorama, which
the
is like
Trashorama
the,
Shorts program.
it's a shorts program that began as its own little trashy festival.
Yeah,
Um,
it's Australia's most notorious short film program.
And good old Dick Dale, who runs that or programs that, has been making this movie.
Is that Dick Dale is
that
Trasharama.
he's been making this movie Rib Spreader for many years, and he's finally got the goods.
He's finally done it, and it is fucking excellent.
Is it really? Yes.
Yeah, it's great. If you're a kind of, I mean, it is very much in that Troma vein.
Yep.
But it's a lot of these people who make Troma-esque movies is like code for shit. Like you kind of think, okay, so that's what the marketing team have come up with,
Right.
But Dick has done it right.
Excellent.
Like it is awesome.
That is good to know. And once again, like he is kind of a mascot for Monster Fest. He's there every year. You can go up and talk to him.
Look, I think the first thing we did when Monster Fest started
Yeah.
was got Dick involved
Yeah.
and got him to bring Trasharama to the rest of Australia. I mean, he used to travel around every now and then. I don't think he always did it, but he would travel around with Trasharama.
Mate, every film festival needs Dick.
Yep.
Yep. And you can go get some this year.
Love the Dick.
Yep. And so Rib Spreader, like make that like a point of your calendar. You need to go and watch that one and support Dick because he's a little bit of a legend. And finally, I mean, there's other titles. Go to the Monster Fest website and check these out. But Friday the 13th 3D.
Part 3, 3D. Yes, indeed.
It's got that pitchfork.
All of those things will make sense when you see it in 3D. You're like, why is that coming towards the screen?
Yeah.
Why are they spending so much time on that stuff coming towards
It's
the
like
screen?
That horrible opening scene from Jaws 3D. Like,
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
But I can tell you, it improves the film. The film is already awesome.
Yeah.
But it improves it like 120% when
Sure.
you get to watch it in 3D.
I have the 3D version, like the old DVD with the blue and red
The Blu-ray
glass,
glasses.
right? But I would really get a kick out of seeing this on a big screen. So
Yeah.
I'll probably be along to that
And that's
one.
the problem now. Like, I don't know about your TV, but my TV now doesn't have 3D capabilities. Like, Samsung have phased it out. They've been phasing it out since 2016, and I'm sure all the other brands are similar. So even if you get the 3D Blu-ray now, you can't watch it on anything.
Well, that's right. You need the old. I don't know what they call it, but the blue, green, red, green kind of glasses to make it work. The old school, mate. Anyway, maybe they'll. Do you reckon they'll reinvest in the 3D when the new Avatar comes along? I doubt
You'd
it.
think that they would have to. Like, there's going to be demand, and it's just like the whole thing when they put it in or take it out. It's like a couple of chips. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure, they've invented the technology.
Yeah.
So putting it back in,
Yeah.
to even if the TVs are now 3/4 of the depth or width or whatever the thing is, they're all slimline. I don't see why. Like, it's not. They just do it. Just shut up and do it, Samsung.
I mean, even when they took it away, they kind of should have secretly had
And
it there.
sponsor us.
They should have secretly still had that capability.
The capability. So then they would, and then just go, oh no, it's there.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to pay $100 for the glasses if
Yeah.
you want to use it.
Yeah, that's right.
No worries.
Happy to. That's cheaper than another
They're
telly.
buying a new TV.
Anyway,
I guess maybe that's why they don't do it.
another.
Because that's because it is what they do with digital cameras and stuff like that. They actually start with the super kick-ass model, and then they literally just disable functions, and get it down into the cheaper versions.
It's like when was it like HDMI inputs started existing before the cables really were about.
Yeah.
Just future-proofing yourself.
Yeah. Or it's like when I got my last MacBook, it was all that Type C plug.
Yeah.
No hard drives were around that. You get to have converters for everything.
Yep.
Now the hard drives come with Type C cables.
Yep. Anyway, we're good on the tangents today, mate. Good on the tangents.
I can only talk in tangents.
Okay, well, how about another tangent? Because we're doing Daddy's Little Girl, and you can start with Daddy's Little Girl, your first recommendation, and
It's
then
not Daddy's Little Girl.
no,
Chris
but you can
Sunfield.
start with your Daddy's Little Girl recommendation, and feel free to divert onto tangents because it's the flavour of the episode, mate.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about this. This film came across my radar years and years ago when Robin Bougie, the illustrator and main writer of Cinema Sewer magazine, sent me a list of films that he had in his. He had like this lending library where you could actually write into him if you bought the magazine and.
He'll send you.
And he'll send you discs. It was like a Netflix before
the original
Netflix.
The original Netflix, yeah. Do you know that Netflix still do that? they still have that postage service, and the only reason they do, and I think there's only 50 or 60 people subscribe to it, it's just that legacy thing they don't want to let go of. It's like, no, that was our origin, so we keep it just because.
Yeah, it's like they keep a giant Blockbuster sign in the trash can in the office, and just every day, every it's a rule that when you come to work, everyone spits at it.
Yeah,
even during COVID.
Yeah, and there's a few pisses and
yeah. It's great.
And Larry always shits on it.
Yeah, that's right. So look, I've been looking for an excuse to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I've had his disc for years. But this is Night of the Juggler from 1980. This movie is a dirty, gritty, grimy kind of action thriller. It's directed by Robert Butler. Oh, and it says, and one other on IMDb. Oh, that's right. Sidney J. Furie is an uncredited director. I fucking love Sidney J. Furie. He did some of the best Bronson movies. He also did things like The Ipcress File, sure. Superman 4. Iron Eagle. But this guy's done some fucking great movies. And so it makes a lot of sense that he uncreditedly directed this film. So it is set in 1980. It stars James Brolin, he's an ex-city cop who literally lost his job as a cop because of the economic downturn in New York. And if you know anything about this period of time in New York, it's pre-Giuliani. And Giuliani got a lot of praise.
He cleaned it up.
For cleaning it up because prior to that, the city was essentially bankrupt.
Do you know how he did it? Do you know how he cleaned it up?
I have no idea.
He put Disney stores in Times Square.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Times Square was a
sleaze pit.
A sleaze pit, yeah. It was a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
If you've seen Taxi Driver, you know.
Yeah, and that's exactly the New York that this film is set in.
Excellent.
And there's still, James Brolin refuses to leave.
Yeah.
Because he loves it. He loves New York.
That's right. The old peep shows.
Yeah, and so he's an ex-cop who's been let go due to budget cuts. And he now works as a truck driver. And because he refused to kind of leave the city, he split up with his wife, and he's basically got kind of not sole custody. It's not. They don't really go into too much detail, but he's basically got custody of his daughter,
right?
Who's I think 13. And one day, I think it's her birthday, and it's the opening kind of day of the film. They have a daddy-daughter day where they and he takes her through Central Park to school, and he sees her off.
Yep.
And then he turns around, he walks away, and then as he's walking away, he kind of hears a scream, and he turns around, and there's a guy who's grabbed his daughter and shoving her into the back of his car, and he kind of takes off after him.
Yes.
And it turns out that this guy has basically kidnapped her, thinking that she's the daughter of this rich guy who's a real estate developer.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of mistaken identity. And he refuses to believe her when she says, well, why are you kidnapping me? My dad's like a truck driver.
So that guy thought he was in ransom.
100%. Yeah. And then it becomes, and he basically on foot chases after this guy. And then he gets...
You're selling it.
He gets into a cab that's Mandy Patinkin is the driver of the cab, who helps him chase him down and then disappears. And then... he chases him through the kind of sleazier part of Times Square, and he notices that the guy drops something outside of a peep show, and he sees one of the girls from the peep show pick it up. So then he has to go through all the peep shows and trying to find this girl to find out what he dropped.
Stop the show! Let's just go watch this now.
It is amazing, and the police lieutenant who's in charge of the case it's Richard Castellano, Clemenza from The Godfather. And he gives a great, almost non-acting performance, just kind of as himself. Like he's 100%, take the gun, take the cannoli, leave the gun, kind of a performance. It is amazing, and I was totally shocked. I mean, the Julie Carmen shows up halfway through. She absolutely stunning, and has a great part in it. But Dan Hedaya, with a full head of hair...
My goodness, it must have been a lot of hair too, because unless it all migrated to his shoulders afterwards.
Well, yeah, he's got this kind of wild... It is a receding afro, but it is like an afro.
Yeah.
And he plays he's one of the cops, but before he got canned, James Brolin actually spoke out a bit about police corruption.
Yeah.
and Dan Hedaya was kind of one of the main kind of guys who got hit. And that is the whole kind of thing running through the film is that the ironic thing is that even though Dan Hedaya was a dirty cop, he got to keep his job.
Yeah.
But James Brolin, because he broke ranks, got shit canned. They were just looking for an excuse to get rid of him. But he basically refuses to help look for the daughter. He just wants his revenge.
I've not been this excited about one of your recommendations in ages.
Oh, well, I don't know how to take that, but but I mean, there is some incredibly brutal stuff. Like at one point he does have a fight with Dan Hedaya, and it's one of many in the film because they do basically beat the shit out of each other throughout New York City.
Yeah.
But I think James Brolin punches him in the nuts like 5 times, like really pounds into those balls, and it is both horrifying and incredibly satisfying and entertaining when he does it. It is definitely worth checking out if you can find it. As far as I know, like it got a VHS release here in Australia. It's probably on YouTube. I just watched my VHS tape of it. I don't know if it may have got a DVD release in the States,
it's on YouTube,
but I don't believe it's had a Blu-ray release anywhere.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna watch it.
It is fucking
Otherwise,
awesome.
you're gonna lend me.
Yeah, I'll have to lend you that. I'll have to lend you my disc.
Yeah. Amazing. And I remember like I think the poster reminded me of Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah, it's very much in that kind of vein, which is
where they had characters breaking out of the poster, kind of.
Yeah. And that's the thing because like where this guy lives, he lives in a part of Harlem, or I believe it's Harlem, that's been basically torn down.
Sure.
Like and that's a theme that runs through the whole film, that these kind of rich fat cat industrialists are basically destroying New York.
Yep.
To bring the prices down,
so
then they can buy the real estate cheap and build it up.
Yeah, right. Well,
which is,
we went in a similar direction. I got to say though, my first choice originally was a great little flick from a few years ago called Freaks, which had Emile Hirsch and Bruce Dern in it, and it was kind of like Bad Boy Bubby meets X-Men. It was really weird about a dad that holds his girl captive in a house because he tells her there's a bad word outside. You don't know whether he's paranoid or whether it's to protect her because she's got powers, or to protect her from the world or protect the world from her.
Yeah.
But merely hours ago, you asked why I wasn't doing hardcore, right?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, why the fuck am I not doing hardcore? So I've gone back to my original choice, and I'm doing hardcore. So this is a 1979 movie with George C. Scott. Also has Peter Boyle and Susan Hubley. And
ex-Mrs. Kurt Russell.
Mrs. Kurt
I think Kurt Russell's only wife.
Yeah, that's right, because he never married Goldie.
And she's also one of the stars of Escape from New York.
Yes, and this movie
and the daughter of Whip Hubley.
There you go. Yes, so this movie is basically the original 8mm. Like, it is a very, very similar story. George C. Scott plays a very conservative kind of businessman from the Bible Belt of America, and his daughter goes missing or runs away. It's a little bit ambiguous at first. And with the help of a private investigator who's played by Peter Boyle, he tracks her down to California where she's working in the sex trade. And his search leads him to the very, very seedy underworld of hardcore pornography and even snuff films. That's where the 8mm kind of stuff comes into it.
I like that there is that period of time where those things were closely linked.
Yeah.
Whereas to a degree now, it's like so much of porn is above board because it just makes so much money that you don't need to do.
Mind you, if you've seen that new Sniper 9, that goes into the illegal webcam world, which probably is a thing. Factories of webcam girls. Anyway.
Oh no, it totally is a thing. Like that's the whole concept. I always think it's hilarious, but the whole concept of those TikTok creator houses. Yeah. 5 years prior to that, they were webcam houses.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's what they were, where they just had a bunch of girls all living together. I don't think it was, chances are it was being run by, fat old guys.
Yeah.
Who, who paid the rent. But
now it's probably run by Russians or something. Anyway.
Well, let's not bring them into it.
So, anyway, this was directed by Paul Schrader, who had pretty much just come off the success of Taxi Driver. And this movie is definitely a chip off that block. It's very, very similar. It presents a grimy, seedy kind of atmosphere like Taxi Driver. And I kind of really love some of these movie choices that George C. Scott was making at the end of his career. Like, he did this one. Exorcist 3 is another example. Like, they were sort of out of the box for him. You know,
No, like things like The Last Run. Like he had The Changeling. He had like a fantastic career. You know, basically when he ditched.
But that's what I'm saying. The tail end of his career, he kind of he changed trajectory.
Yeah, he just started doing really interesting films. But I can't remember his wife, Campbell Scott's mother, I can't remember. She was an actress, a pretty successful actress as well. And he ditched her for Trish Van Devere, a much younger woman who was his co-star in The Last Run. Yeah. And she pops up in all of his subsequent films.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, the thing I love about this one in particular, George C. Scott signed on to this movie based on the script, right? He loved the script, but he wasn't aware that he was contractually obligated to shoot in actual porn houses and sex shops, and he wanted out of the movie when that became a reality for him. But he was locked in, so he had to go against his fibre to be in these locations for the entire shoot. And it is all in sex shops. They're real sex shops. Half of the clientele are real, like, you know, the porn houses.
Very much the milieu of Schrader, of the Schrader brothers. Because his brother Leonard is the one who did, what's his name? The doco. That we interviewed Leon O'Regan about it when he released it. It's a Palace Explosive title.
Yes. Oh, fuck. The Killing of America.
Killing of America.
Yes, duh. Of course. The funny thing, too, about this movie, and this is sort of a sign of the times, right? Because when this was made, it was very much... Now it's a conservative movie, right? But back then it was a liberal movie. Like, you can watch this from the prism of either kind of side of politics and get out of it different things. Like, it really is a fence-sitter movie where if you've got a persuasion one way or the other, you'll see this movie very differently from other people. Right. And that struck me. I thought that was really fascinating. And I don't even know if that was intentional at the time, because I think, you know, the world back then was different. And, you know, anyway, I found that interesting retrospectively. So, yeah, and the other thing to add to this, which I found not only fantastic but hilarious, is that Ed Begley Jr. plays a porno star in this movie. And,
perfect casting.
I mean, if you know who he is, and you will if you look him up, then you'll find that quite amusing.
That's why when you told me you were watching this, I said that the perfect companion piece would be 52 Pickup. Yeah. Because it has all of those, you know, all of those people are in that film. And even in Night of the Juggler, Sharon Mitchell is the girl who works at the Peep Show that picks up the thing. Yep. And she was a you know, a relatively famous porn star in the 70s and 80s, and is now like she runs AIM, the kind of the AIDS testing facility that all the porn stars use before they do any shoots and stuff like that. That's all her. Like, she is like she's like the, you know, the female William Margold, or he's the male Sharon Mitchell. I don't know what it is, but she started as a porn star and kind of.
Well, you know, I was amused because like
took over. I think maybe that Maggie Gyllenhaal character in Deuce. The Deuce is kind of based on her. Gotcha. I think. I don't know.
Well, I was amused because Ed Begley Jr. was a Disney actor back in the day, and not many years before this one, he had done that. Was it Super Dad with Kurt Russell?
Yeah, but Ed Begley Jr. was also, used to get high with John Belushi and stuff. Like, he is
You wouldn't know it when you know him as the character he's become.
Yeah, I mean, he was a Hollywood brat.
Yeah, hilarious. Anyway, there you go. I ended up going with hardcore thanks to you. Yeah, so. Fantastic. Sorry about Freaks, but check it out too.
Check out Freaks. I want to watch Freaks. Like, I remember when it came out, and I meant to check it out, and I just didn't get around to it.
Obviously, I was
like everything. Yeah.
How's it going, everybody? It's Guillermo here from Screen Realm. That's ScreenRealm.com and Screen Realm on YouTube. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot going up lately, including reviews and interviews. As always, I'm here to tell you about some of the movie news stories from the past week, kicking off with a new Naked Gun movie, potentially with Liam Neeson starring. According to Deadline, Paramount Pictures is looking to go ahead with a Naked Gun reboot, with Liam Neeson currently in negotiations to star and Akiva Schaffer set to direct. Akiva Schaffer is a member of the comedy music group Lonely Island, and his feature directorial credits include Hot Rod, The Watch, Lonely Island music videos, and the 2016 comedy Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. The screenplay is going to be coming from Dan Greger and Doug Mand, who worked with Schaffer on the recent Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie. Now, plot details aren't known, but it is expected that Neeson, if all negotiations go well, will not be playing the role of Detective Frank Drebin, who was played by Leslie Nielsen in the original comedies, and instead will be playing his son. Sydney Sweeney, whose credits include popular series Euphoria, 2021 thriller The Voyeurs, and award-winning miniseries The White Lotus, will be starring in a new Barbarella movie. The new Barbarella movie has been set up at Sony Pictures with Sweeney on board as executive producer and star. This is to be based on the French comic book series by Jean-Claude Forest, which was of course turned into a 1968 movie starring Jane Fonda. A new Barbarella movie has been in development hell for quite a few years now, with Robert Rodriguez at one point set to direct. There's still currently no writer or director attached to this Sweeney starring project, so we'll see what happens here. Filming has started on a new Jason Statham action thriller titled The Beekeeper, and there's new cast members being announced just now. Oscar winner Jeremy Irons, Emmy Raver Lampman from The Umbrella Academy, Bobby Naderi from Under the Shadow, and Josh Hutcherson from The Hunger Games are joining Jason Statham in the film that is being directed by David Ayer. His credits include Suicide Squad, End of Watch, and Fury. The Beekeeper will be following the story of one man's brutal campaign for vengeance, which takes on national stakes after he's revealed to be a former operative of a powerful and clandestine organization known as the Beekeepers. Paramount's upcoming Transformers film, Transformers Rise of the Beasts, has added Michelle Yeoh and Pete Davidson. They've been added to the voice cast, with Yeoh on board to voice Maximal A. Razor and Davidson to voice Autobot Mirage. Transformers Rise of the Beasts is to be starring Anthony Ramos, known for In the Heights and Hamilton, and Dominic Fishback, known for Judas and the Black Messiah and Project Power. On board as director is Stephen Caple Jr., who previously directed Creed 2 and The Land. As of now, the next Transformers movie is expected to hit cinemas in June 2023. And Marvel's planned Blade movie, set to star Oscar winner Mahershala Ali, is on pause and has had its release date pushed back. Filmmaker Bassam Tariq, who was on board to direct the film, stepped away a few weeks ago, so Marvel has decided to shut down production-related activities in Atlanta as the search for a new filmmaker continues. Blade had been scheduled for a US release on November 3rd, 2023, and now it's September 6th, 2024. Word is that production on the film will be starting again in early 2023. That about does it for me, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me once again. As always, check out Screen Realm on YouTube. We've got reviews, interviews, and more. Catch you later.
Spider.
I have been dying for an opportunity to play that song on the show. That's a song called Wolf Totem from the Mongolian metal group The Who. Far out. What a mind-blowing band this is. If you enjoyed hearing that, go and look them up and have a listen to them.
You saw them live, didn't you?
I was lucky enough to film them do an acoustic set in town, and I'll tell you what, I've never had such a guttural experience. Like, I felt their performance in my stomach, because they do that throat singing, and it's really bassy.
Yeah.
And they have all these really sort of handcrafted, double basses with, and weird Mongolian violins and stuff. Just amazing. So, yes.
They just call them violins.
A mind-blowing band. And their song is from the new horror movie, The Retaliators. This is what we're here to talk about. And the whole thing about this movie is that it's produced by that music label that The Who are on, called Better Noise Music, and it's under their film label, Better Noise Films.
It's almost like an Ice Cube movie where who was it? Faison Love, I think.
Yeah.
On Dinner for Five, he did that impression of working with Ice Cube, and he's just like, do it. All right, cut. Let's go work on the soundtrack.
Well, I mean, yeah. So they've created. I mean, they do have a film division, right? And they do feature a lot of their acts in their films. So in this one, you got Tommy Lee, you got The Who, Papa Roach, Five Finger Death Punch, and a whole bunch of others. But it wasn't just an excuse to put their acts in it.
I believe that's exactly what it was.
The soundtrack, yes. No, the soundtrack, absolutely. But I think they've just we've got these talents, let's put them in there. The fans will lap that up. Yeah. But the movie itself, it's actually a really cool little film. And I'll give you a brief rundown before I throw to this interview. It follows a pastor who breaks away from his church because, and he ventures into the city underworld when his daughter is murdered, right? So he's trying to track down her killers. And it takes him to this really unexpected and unique place that you don't see in horror movies very often. It leads you to think it's going in one direction, then it takes...
And then it twists, yeah. But the fun part is his kind of transformation, because he's very much a turn the other cheek guy. And the opening scene is great, with him buying a Christmas tree with his son.
Oh, yeah.
The tree gets taken by this bully.
Yep.
And then, by the end of the film, it redoes it again.
Comes
and
around.
He beats the fuck out of the guy.
Yeah, it is a great transformation. If you've seen the poster, it's covered in blood and that kind of lets you know where
That's the Christmas tree scene.
Yeah,
No.
It lets you know where he's going, right? But, I mean, it's very hard to... If you're good at predicting films, it's hard to predict where this one goes. The final act is quite a unique kind of take on a genre. So anyway, it is now available digitally. Let's pique your interest with my conversation with Michael Lombardi, talking all about it.
I've got the man who murdered your daughter. How'd you like 1 minute? 1 minute alone. Daddy's sorry about this.
I really appreciate you making time for this, come full circle. I know you're probably exhausted by now.
Hey, no, I'm so happy. Thank you for having me on the show, and I appreciate your time, Glenn. Thank you.
No, look, the pleasure is mine. I've got to start off with the fact that we've got another Christmas horror movie to add to the calendar. As a horror fan, that means a lot to me. So that's the first question. What was the reason to set this at Christmas?
Well, what's funny is I'm glad you're seeing that, because not everyone does. There were we did some festivals and there were some exit interviews being done, and people really picked up on that fact. However, not everyone. Obviously, it's Christmas, but is this the next Die Hard, Christmas? Because there are a lot of winks to the 80s films and action heroes and all that stuff, which is why I say it. But, I think what's fun about this movie is there's so many sort of hopefully unexpected twists and turns. And, it's a revenge thriller at the end of the day, which is the oldest story in the book, right? It's so primal. A saber-toothed tiger attacks a caveman's clan. They go hunt the saber-toothed tiger, right? It's like Shakespeare. It's like love. But I think it's told in a little bit different of a manner in this one with, the pastor, a man of the cloth, and I think throwing in that Christmas element was something that just heightened sort of the reality and the fall, and peeled, it added another layer of the onion to the story from where it goes from the first act to the third act.
Totally, and I do love right at the beginning, without giving anything away whatsoever, but when you say they're not zombies, that is just the perfect kickoff right there. And I just love the fact that comes full circle, and it really made it. That's what made it so rewarding for me, that one little line.
Oh man, thanks so much. It's crazy because you'd be surprised. Making a movie is not easy, you know, and you read a script and then to read the script and then actually try to get that movie across the finish line between filming it and then the edit and all the different voices and different egos and people and COVID and all these things. Like I come from the school of you got to collaborate with the writers. If they're alive, if they're there, if you have access to them, you have to lean into them. And me and the Gear brothers are close. So I was able to do that. And I'm an actor first and foremost. So as an additional director and also a producer on this, that's the school that I come from. But a lot of these little nuggets and Easter eggs in that line were fought for pretty hard from the original script, actually. There tried to be a few changes from the beginning in the way. And we had to fight for that one, along with a lot of things. And that's what's been so cool about this, whether you like the movie or not. And it's not for everybody. As I'm starting to hear people talk about it, I hear these little things and it's making me feel happy inside, you know, because you're like, damn, I remember how hard we fought for that and this. And, you know, you may not get that off the page. I happen to. There's a lot of things I don't get. But on this case, I was inspired by those because the writers and I collaboratively, artistically, and we're aligned, you know, so it just aligned for this one, you know.
So speaking of that, you know, you mentioned being the producer and a co-director on this. How did this project all come together? Where was its origins, and how did you become involved with it?
Yeah, so early 2000s, mid 2000s, I had a little record deal. I had a rock band, and I was living in LA at the time. But I'm an East Coast guy, but I was out in LA, and my music manager used to be like, hey, listen, you got to go write with these brothers. These guys are amazing songwriters, talented. It's the Gear brothers, the writers of the Retaliators. So I would go and I'd travel about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of LA to meet with these guys. And as I said, like we're so aligned, like our tastes and everything. So anyway, you know, I go back to the East Coast. Everyone's in their life. Some years had passed, and get this is crazy. I had to do a charity event, and I'm on the set of a movie, and I called Darren and I said, hey, Darren Gear. I said, hey, man, you know, I'm doing this charity event. I want to perform that song, When Heaven and Hell Collide, that you and I wrote, but it's not my band. You know, I haven't played with these guys. I need to drop it a half step. What do you think? And he said, it's going to sound too muddy. I think it was in drop D already. So it was like, so he's like, yeah, we're talking blah, blah, blah. Well, hey, what have you been up to lately? My brother and I have been writing screenplays, he says. And I said, send them to me now. So he sent me a lot of screenplays, and I saw the Retaliators, and I was like, I got to make this movie. Now get this. This is crazy. Alan Kovac, he's the CEO and founder of Better Noise Music. It's a huge record label, right? They represent over 40 bands. Back in the day, he had the Bee Gees, Meatloaf. He still has Blondie, Tommy Lee, Motley Crue, Five Finger Death Punch. So I know him. He attended the charity event that I was doing, that I dropped the song, A Half Step, When Heaven and Hell Collide, that I wrote with Darren. After it, we go to the after party, the dinner thing, and he's saying to me, you know, hey, it would be great to do something with you someday. I like you, blah, blah, blah. So I bring him the Retaliators. And I knew Alan before that, but at that charity event is when we started to get close. It took a few years, but so I bring him the Retaliators, and he's like, let's do this. And isn't this crazy? And when I read I knew it was the perfect script because I felt the music jump off the page. And it didn't say, hey, music here, there, but it's such a wink at the 80s, you know, all those great movies, 80s and 90s, Lost Boys, Crow, Breakfast Club, Judgment Night, with these great soundtracks. So Alan said, let's do this. And he backed me the whole time. He never questioned it, gave me so much responsibility and so much, just put so much faith in me. He never stepped on set, but he put me in touch with every musician, all these incredible musicians who have cameos in the film, you know, Five Finger Death Punch, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, Spencer Charnas, Ice Nine Kills, Jacoby Shaddix, Papa Roach, Craig Mabbitt, Escape the Fate, Eva Marie from Eva Under Fire, and it goes on and on. The Who. Oh my God, these guys are so good.
I shot them live about 2 weeks ago. They are phenomenal.
Dude, aren't they getting nominated for some? They're in a best live performance too.
Oh, they are just because we shot like an acoustic set with them, and it was just phenomenal.
Dude, I got they came to set, the full band, when one of the leads was he's in the scene and he's in the coffin, right? And then Jacoby was filming from Papa Roach. So that weekend we got to shoot a music video where Jacoby's featured on their song, Wolf Totem, it's called. So I got to play that song over and over again, like so cool, man. It's so cool. So yeah, we the one of the goals too that Alan and I set out to do was make this a movie first, because look, you have this gold lining of these incredible musicians and this incredible soundtrack. But for me, I wanted a movie. I thought this film, I love the writing, and I thought it sat on the highbrow side of horror, and it was story driven, but yet, there's these great opportunities, but I really wanted to do it in a non-gratuitous manner and in a way in which if you didn't know if you weren't a fan of Papa Roach, you'd just think Jacoby Shaddix was an actor. And I feel like, who knows where it goes, this movie's not for everyone, but at the end of the day, we got into some great genre festivals and listening to people starting to talk about it. It's really nice to hear that they respect it as a film, because I never wanted to just leech off the musicians and to be quite honest with you, like if I went to my acting agent and was like, and by the way, who cares? Because you want to make a piece of art anyway. You can't work on all this stuff. But I will say, if you went and said, hey, I'm in this movie with 8 musicians and this great soundtrack, it might not be taken seriously, and again, that never stopped me. And a lot of things maybe should have stopped me in terms of, holy shit, I'm in a movie. I haven't even done this before. I've been on a lot of stuff. I've been an actor 20 years, and I was on this television show for a long time. I did 100 episodes of it. But point is, I just didn't look back because I was so passionate about the script and then all these other elements. But again, giving the respect to these musicians and not making them be proud of the film at the end of the day, and having it be more of a symbiotic thing where they're in a real movie and a new fan base maybe could be open to them for people who just like the genre, but yet they're bringing all this added value, and that was something that I really wanted to set out for. We'll see where it goes from here, but those were all my goals, a lot of them.
I think it's probably fortuitous too, because I think you've picked the right time for this movie to drop, because you've had that Foo Fighters horror film come out, and this is sort of very much similar kind of genre. It's got a lot of music. It takes the piss out of a lot of the genre. What I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned the fact that you wanted to put story first, and I totally get that, because none of these guest cameos, whatever you want to call them, none of them seemed tokenistic. That seemed like they were just naturally in the film. But they say never work with children, never work with animals. What's it like to work with rock stars? Are they hard to wrangle on the set? Like, do they take it as seriously as they should?
Let me tell you, man, if you can get them there, you're golden. They are great. If you can get them there were a couple times, no, they were all but there were a couple times where I was expecting somebody and then we had to pivot on the day. However, they're so good, man. And you know what? They're natural storytellers, right? They're all pros. They came to play. Acting's like jumping off that cliff, not being afraid. Now, I talked to them all about their characters before they got to set. They listened. They were open. They it's crazy because I'm going to see them. I knew who they were, but now I'm going to some of their shows and seeing what they do on stage and being like, holy shit, like that's amazing that I hung out with that dude and talked to him about his role and we've collaborated together, because they're so powerful on stage and they're all been doing this for years. It's a long journey. And they're masters of their craft. So it was really nice for them to come in and be so open to learning and listen and direct them and talk to them about their part. And just sort of, they have open arms, like they're natural storytellers through music, through their instruments, through lyrics, if it was the lead singer. But I think when you come in and you act, you have to like maybe make it a little smaller than you do on stage and have it inside and bring it behind your eyes. And it's always about the pinch, never the ouch. What I thought was really cool was no one was like faking. You could come out and be big, but then you're not genuine. And what I loved is no one wanted to be false or fake. Like they asked the right questions. They did the right emotional preparation, whatever it was. Like if you're going to go play a scene and you're going to be in this mood, you could use that your dog died 3 years ago or whatever the hell it is to get you there. And then you go and play the scene with your objective and point of view. But whatever they were using, I saw them all in the corner at different times. Every different musician who was on it at a different time doing this. And I'm like, all right, man, this is pretty cool. They instinctually knew what they were doing. Now, I know they do a lot of music videos and different things, but I don't think many of them have acted in a feature film, or at least to this capacity.
Yeah, totally. Another thing I wanted to ask you before I do let you run, and every filmmaker these days gets asked this question, but I always get a different answer. So I'm very curious to know if the pandemic affected the shooting of this film. Was it shot during the pandemic, after, before? Like, I mean, how did that factor into everything?
Yeah, 100% affected it, very much so. You know, with the arts, anything, everything was affected, of course. But, you know, you have to have a group of people gather to make a film. You have a crew, you know, people are flying in from everywhere. So yeah, we got hit pretty hard. You know, I brought Alan the script 3 years ago or so. So it's some time to make. We got to shoot. You know, there's certain protocols. You know, you have to have different stations, a cleaning station. You have to have COVID tests. And at the beginning, they were super, super, super expensive. We had to have a quick turnaround. So if we're shooting in Nevada, the only lab was in LA. So we had to have a runner going back and $400 or $500 a test at that time. So whoever it was making a lot of money, but we needed them. So it cost the production a ton of money. Then get this, long story short, we're in Nevada. I brought my crew from where we were shooting to a lot of locations because we were in our pod, right? Of course, when you're flying, we're wearing double masks. We're terrified. And the Screen Actors Guild, rightfully so, was super hyper concerned, as they needed to be. So when we flew into Nevada, unfortunately, I needed to meet with a locations guy, right, to go around. So we kept our distance, etc. Me and the core guys, the DP, the assistant director, were there. We're going through, and turns out, you know, cut to 3 or 4 days later on our first day of principal photography there in that location. On the way to set, I get the 911 call, 6:30 in the morning. Locations guy's positive for COVID. So, of course, SAG finds out, we get shut down. It's like a Wednesday. Guy never made it to set because we had protocol that you're getting tested at the hotel in a room individually before you get to set. However, can't shoot. We get shut down. SAG was so inundated with this, they didn't even get back to us till Monday. So now we're shut down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can't shoot. It's money. We got the crew there. So those kind of things were constant obstacles throughout the production. And as I told you before, man, it's hard to make a movie anyway. And me being, you know, I've been on sets a long time. And I'll tell you one other thing. I was on a show about firefighters. Dennis Leary was the lead. It was called Rescue Me, right?
Yep.
And he also acted, produced, wrote the show. So I didn't realize that for 8 years being next to this guy, 100 episodes, is amazing how much I learned from him. So I hadn't been a producer, director. I just had a lot of passion, and I felt like I had some experience, but it was a lot, man. I learned so much throughout this process. I can't even begin to tell you, dealing with obstacles, being a leader, failing, learning, landing on my feet. Like Alan supporting me through the whole thing. I mentioned him earlier, Alan Kovac. I was there for me no matter what. And, you know, we got something at the end. So
you certainly did. What a testament to what you've done, considering all of that was in the way. Like, huge, the biggest obstacle you can imagine. So, like, you know, you've delivered a fantastic product that's just fun. And without giving anything away, like, I just want to tell you that the final act of this movie is worth it for the price of admission alone. Like, it is just balls out gnarly.
Yeah, man, it's like the birth of metal, someone said. And I was like,
yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's fun and wild. And yeah, thanks, man. You know,
well, congratulations, man. Like, I hope there's more movies from Better Music Films. Like, it's, you know, it's a really exciting kind of thing. And I wish you all the best with it. And thanks so much for taking the time to chat about it. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. Best to you, and thank you for your time. And I appreciate your thoughtful questions, man. Thank you.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size. We're talking movies about daddy's little girl.
My question to you guys is, what do you do if your little girl is taken? Well,
like Man on Fire?
No, well, if you're Jackie Chan, you terrorize the shit out of Pierce Brosnan, and I want to talk about I really want to talk about The Foreigner, directed by Martin Campbell.
We've talked about that on Bonehead. I talked about it on Bonehead. I really liked it.
I really did.
Called The Chinaman, right?
Yeah, it's called The Chinaman, based on that book. Yeah, it is a fantastic film, and it really shows that Jackie Chan is not just for stunts. That man can put forth a heart-wrenching performance. And many, many props to Martin Campbell. He's one of those underappreciated directors who I still have a sense of loathing for because of what he did with Green Lantern, but I feel like it's not
Well,
his
he's
fault.
made a couple of really bad movies.
Yes, he has. And when he makes them bad,
he makes
oh
them
boy,
bad.
he makes them bad. But no, so if you're not familiar with The Foreigner, this isn't giving too much away because it happens in the first few minutes, but Jackie Chan's daughter is violently murdered and he wants revenge on the people who did it and he goes after them. It has an amazing ending that a movie with that premise can have. I cannot recommend enough The Foreigner. It's a great film with Jackie Chan, Pierce Brosnan. They are both do amazing performances in that movie, so I cannot recommend it enough. Who goes next?
I'm going to go next. I want to talk about 2017's The Florida Project, directed by Sean Baker.
I still haven't seen that.
It's a magnificent film. At the first time I watched it, the first 20 minutes, I was like, why did Willem Dafoe get nominated for an Oscar for this? And by an hour and 30 into it, I was ready to cry. I was ready to run and help all these two little girls, and Willem Dafoe is the guy who has a heart of gold trying to do his best in a terrible situation where these people live in a motel. Basically, if you're familiar with outside of Orlando and Kissimmee, right around 192, this hotel was really there. Moving right along. Brooklyn Prince, Bria Venate, the little girl, and basically she's a single mom. And she's not a great person. She's terrible at it. And this little girl and these little children hanging out at this hotel that they live in. And it's kind of this existence where people can't afford to get an apartment or a house. And they live in these hotels and they make bad decisions. And her mom constantly makes bad decisions. And this little girl has very little hope. The ending is slightly hopeful. It's whimsical. It's maybe slightly too whimsical for me. But it's soul crushing and it bothers me a lot. And it bothers me even more now. I'm thinking about it right now. Damn you, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn, I hope you're happy. We picked a couple of depressing picks. And by the way, if that means Joe and I picked something depressing, James is going to make you want to slit your wrists.
Well, it's depressing, but it's also, you have hope because Willem Dafoe is such a good person in this movie. Yeah. I just I'm getting slightly emotional. It's a hard to take because I feel like there's children who never get a shot, and this little girl doesn't really get a shot, and it is depressing as hell to me. Sorry.
As Chad warned everybody, I'm gonna go really far off here. See, I'm gonna pick a movie about this father and his daughter's getting married. It's called Father of the Bride.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, you ever see that one?
Oh,
yeah, movie. It's depressing as hell. All the money he has to spend.
Which version?
I'm actually going with this. I'm going with the Steve Martin version because the reason I like that version is for one entire reason. It's a quote that Dana and I, my wife and I, use back and forth. The insanity in our family depletes over generations. I'm not doing the exact line, but I'm crazy. She's half crazy. Eventually, your children may have a chance. I like that line.
Steve Martin's actually a well-to-do person in that movie.
Yeah.
The one problem about having daughters, you all knows weddings.
No,
I'm so expensive. That to me is a horror picture. And that's the plot is him.
Yeah. By the way, Joe, can I now say that you've done yours, which one I thought you would do because I thought it was one of your favorite movies? But no, it's fine. You obviously hate it. What movie has a better kind of father-daughter scene than To Kill a Mockingbird?
I love that scene. It's right up there with the cuckoo clock scene with Orson Welles about you stand up. That's your dad. It makes me want to cry. I can't say it. I swear to God. Now that I've said Florida Project, I don't know. I'm sober, but saying that line from To Kill a Mockingbird makes me want to cry. It's pure cinema.
Yeah, put that N209 gun in your mouth and pull the trigger.
That's why I went with.
And this is the reason why we were all on vacation within 30 minutes of one another and didn't see each other.
Thank you very much, Boneheads. James, a bit under the weather there. Got himself some COVID.
He had well, before you said that, I was going to say he had a very deep, sexy voice in this.
I mean, if you're going to get COVID, there is no better place to be than Kentucky because doesn't like bourbon cure everything? Like it kills everything. It's like
I believe that's gin.
Oh, all right.
And he's in Mississippi now.
Oh no,
not in Kentucky.
Well,
so
get yourself back there, boy.
Yeah. And you prepared that bit, like it's written down in your script, and you still got it all wrong.
It's not.
No,
it is not. Don't go making it sound like I do. Joe was a bit of a Suki Lala, though.
Real men do cry. Real men do cry. Or is it strong men? What's the big?
But
the
it
big
doesn't
Lebowski
make it
bit?
any less funny.
No. As long as I don't have to be in the room with them when they do it.
Yeah, because awkward moments and all.
Yeah, I don't deal with emotions of any kind.
And as we know on the show, and as you've proven on the desk, you only cry when you come.
That's right.
Thank you, boneheads. Anyway, so moving on. You don't want to confirm nor deny?
I've got to work up to it. If you know what I mean.
Check out the Boneheads, Bonehead Weekly podcast. Get it where you get podcasts. I always tell you to check out the YouTube version. I get a kick out of watching them.
I like to watch them.
Yeah, and cry.
And cry. Well, at the end. Sometimes I don't make it through the full 2 hours. Sometimes, they're just so damn entertaining that only last 20 minutes.
I guess and that all depends on how much talking Joe does, isn't that right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the best part is when James
the more Joe talks, the less you listen.
The best parts are when James and Chad just interrupt Joe, and he starts to get frustrated because he just wants to get his bit out. And then when they talk, he interrupts them and doesn't understand why they're getting upset.
We love the Boneheads, and we're sincere about that. Check them out. We love having them on the show. Appreciate what they do. So let's get back into daddy-daughter movies. That's what we're here for. I was surprised at how many of these are out there because we're kind of going from one genre to another. There's so many, and it was very hard to narrow down. Some that made my shortlist, and thankfully it was covered by the Boneheads, Father of the Bride. I was thinking about doing that. And the intern, Three Men and a Baby. That's a good one. I Am Sam. There's that.
That's great, except it's more the other way around. It's almost daughter's little daddy.
There's a movie title. The sequel.
Baby's little daddy.
Jersey Girl's another. Taken, Maggie, Cargo. Like there's some horror ones in there. Curly Sue, although is he her father? I can't quite remember. It's been some time. It's a relationship.
I think he
basically
he isn't.
the role.
Yeah, he assumes the role. Yeah.
My Girl. If you want to go dark, you go Prisoners. You want to go light, you go Imagine That. With Eddie Murphy, which is
Gifted. Is it the one with,
with
Captain America? In it?
Yeah, what's his name? Chris
Evans.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was great, and
that.
and the girl, because the girl is in the Ghostbusters.
And
movie.
she's
the main.
amazing
She's
in
the main.
Ghostbusters. Yeah,
she's amazing and Gifted too.
She's
really good.
She is, but she transformed in Ghostbusters. You know, and really proved herself to be a character actress.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a revelation. Anyway,
but the best one.
Yeah.
The best daddy-daughter movie.
Yes.
Is Get Carter, which a lot of people don't understand as a daddy-daughter film, but it is
totally.
The instigating event is a daddy-daughter moment.
Yeah.
And then the rampage that Michael Caine goes on at the end is once again based on a daddy-daughter moment.
No different to Retaliators. It's like all based on that moment that triggers a series of events, you know, and it's a rampaging revenge kind of thing. I've gone in a completely different direction. So I wanted to get a bit sappy with this one, go in a lighter direction.
Fuck you.
And I watched it for the first time. I had it in mind to watch recently. It's 2021's, and I haven't done a brand new film for a while. It's Fatherhood, Kevin Hart. Which, I tell you what, it is overall fairly formulaic.
Can I just say that I'm disappointed that this isn't the one with, was it Ted Danson? Is that, no, with Patrick Swayze?
Patrick Swayze, yeah, I know. I almost did that, to be honest with you. And then I watched the trailer just to think, should I do it? And it's a terrible trailer.
It's a boy, isn't it?
I can't remember. But I just remember looking at the trailer going, this does not...
The kid's a boy.
This does not do it for me. Anyway, Fatherhood, like I said, very formulaic. However, it is well worth it for Kevin Hart's performance alone. And that made me think, what the fuck is going on, right? Because I hated Kevin Hart for the longest time.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
And
Wedding
now,
Ringer is
Which
an
one?
amazing film, The Wedding Ringer.
But now, I've come to the conclusion I just misjudged him all those years. Like, I actually think he's...
I agree, you were wrong.
Yes. You know what? It's Jared and I had a revelation moment. We both had the same opinion of Kevin Hart. We did not like him. Then we went and saw that, is it high school or that night school? And we came out of the cinema going...
Once again, not the one with Rachel Ward, which is what I thought I was going in to see.
But we came out of that going, like, which one of us admits that we really enjoy Kevin Hart? You know? And since then,
Ben was right all along.
Yeah, totally were.
Have to go back and reappraise the wedding ring.
Since then, I've enjoyed pretty much most of what he does. I can get something out of it. Anyway, this one, it's about a guy that raises his daughter from birth after his wife dies of an aneurysm just shortly after the birth. And the first act is what I was in it for. Like, it is heavy emotional stuff. And this guy, like, he pulls out an emotional sledgehammer and just whacks you over the head with it. Like, and it is really, really hard to watch and heavy stuff. But then after that, it just sort of descends into a typical 3 Men and a Baby type of romp where he's, it's 5 years later. She's now, obviously 5. And and it's the father.
It was my understanding, Glenn, that there would be no math on this
The father
show.
is no longer the cool guy, and he's got to kind of adapt. He's got a new woman in his life, and
I was going to say, but at 5, that doesn't happen.
Well, it kind of does in this one because she realizes that he's protecting her from a lot of things that she wants to experience.
Yeah. But, I mean, usually it's not until they turn into teenagers that you start hating your parents.
Yeah, I know.
But
she doesn't hate him. She wants more.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is the minute you send your kids off to school is the minute you lose them.
Yeah.
Because school is a terrible, terrible place that no child, no human should ever have to deal with.
And there's a school element in this because she goes to a private Catholic school with nuns, and the dress code is dresses, but she wears pants, and that becomes a recurring motif. And he's trying to, he doesn't like the nuns, so there's that combative sort of parental thing going on. Anyway,
he can take her out of the school.
Well, but that's also a factor in it too. Like, I'm not going to give away too much. I just think it's a pretty good movie, and sometimes formula is good.
Nothing wrong with the formula.
You just want a good formula. And I could have recommended a very similar movie from France called To His Family. I don't know if you've seen that one.
So this is your 4th recommendation for the film?
It's up to you if you want to letterbox this or not. But anyway, that's good. And
I'm just going to letterbox my film.
I think
How
that's
about that?
great. And I was so blown away by Kevin Hart that I decided on this one. People that are in the movie that I should include in this is DeWanda Wise, who I interviewed recently on the show from Jurassic World. She plays the love interest, and she's fantastic. Alfre Woodard, who is very, very irritating and annoying in this, intentionally so. She's the mother of the mother-in-law who wants the best for the daughter, but it goes against how Kevin Hart's raising her. Then you got Frankie Faison as her husband. Paul Reiser is in this.
Lovely.
I love him. He's making a bit of a comeback in Hollywood right now.
Have you seen that show that he's on now?
No, what one's that?
I can't remember.
He was in Stranger Things, and he's fantastic in that. He's back for the new Beverly Hills Cop.
He's in Whiplash too, but he was in. This show is about it's a sitcom about a sitcom, or with Michael Keegan.
Yes.
Michael Key.
Oh, I know the one. I can't remember the name, but I do know the one you mean.
Yeah, and it's the guy who did Modern Family.
Yes,
it's his
yes,
show,
yes.
and it's this girl. This woman wants to bring back a 80s sitcom, and all of the people in the sitcom whose careers have all
it's called
gone to the
Reboot
toilet.
or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Or remake, or
And she gets lumbered with the original executive producer of the show.
Sure.
And that's Paul Reiser,
didn't know
who
he was
also turns out to be her father.
Well, I'm enjoying this. Like, I'm enjoying his resurgence as well. So I'll probably check that out. Based on
he's
that
in
fact.
that. Is it not Wayward Pines? What's that? It's a TV
Stranger
show. It's on
Things.
Prime. No.
Because that's the creator of Stranger Things was Wayward Pines.
It's not Wayward Pines, but it's something. It's something like that. But it's all set in a country club. It's very Caddyshack.
Right.
And he's like the rich,
Far out.
Ty Webb kind of character.
He really is back on the scene.
And it is fucking excellent. That show is fucking excellent.
I will check that out. The other guy in it that's worth a mention is Anthony Carrigan, who he has no eyebrows, and I find that very disconcerting. But he was amazing in.
Hey man, you want Will Smith to come up and slap you for making fun of Anthony Carrigan's alopecia?
He was amazing in Bill and Ted 3. He played Robot, and that's where I sort of first cottoned onto who he was. So it was good to see him in this, even though it's a bit tricky to watch him, but The cast is good. The little girl is great, and there you go. Fatherhood. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but it's worth it just for Kevin Hart alone.
Can I just say I'm very disappointed that you didn't take my suggestion and talk about Game Plan with The Rock?
Well, I was thinking
or the
Tooth Fairy. Tooth Fairy 2, I might have.
Or even like The Pacifier with Vin Diesel. I guess they're not his kids, but I think he's going to make babies with Lauren Graham after that movie finished.
I could have done many things, mate.
Could have, yeah.
Instead, what I did is I chose a movie I wanted to do.
yeah, I'm not for that.
Good Movie Monday is made possible with the support of people like Viewlorium. Viewlorium is a streaming platform for rare and obscure movies, and it's absolutely free. They also have a catalogue full of kids' flicks, classic movies, foreign cinema, and more. Visit viewlorium.com today to see what it's all about.
So here's something interesting, Ben. We just played the Viewlorium promo. Viewlorium have gone and rebranded themselves as Recall TV.
Recall.
Wasn't that nice of them to let us know?
Yeah.
But you can still visit viewlorium.com and be redirected to that new website. It's the same website, just rebranded. But yeah, Recall TV. They're now. I can't afford another ad. Just keep calling it Viewlorium. I mean, Recall TV. Where else do you watch Tales of the Voodoo Prostitute? That's one of their films.
That's is that available here? Or is that only in New Zealand?
No, that's here.
That's
what about Concrete Cowboys with Tom Selleck and Jerry Reed?
That's that's the missing Tom Selleck movie.
Yeah, they've got it. They also have...
but the problem, the quality of it is so poor. At least because it's also on Amazon Prime, and I've only watched the Prime version.
Yeah,
the quality is so poor that you cannot make out that it's Tom Selleck.
Well, the mustache doesn't do all the talking.
Doesn't know. It's not like Coma. He's fucking great in Coma.
Get this, mate. They also have a movie called Texas Taliban. And that's got Bo Hopkins, Dennis Berkley, Randall Cobb, Mickey Jones, Sidney Lassick. Like, they've taken all the bikies, bums, and mental patients from Hollywood and lumped
Randall
them in.
Tex Cobb.
Oh, whatever. They've lumped them all into one movie.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds like what the Untouchable should have been.
What a title, too. Texas Taliban. And that was made before Taliban was
Had a
big global threat. It existed, but it wasn't what it was now.
Yeah, it's like they could have called it Texas Jihad, and nobody would have known.
Texas ISIS.
Yeah.
Anyway, would you care to cap things off with a final recommendation?
Sure.
Do it.
Now, fans of the show, fans of me, people who have run into me on the street, people who I've stood next to at a urinal will know how much of a fan I am of the drive-in slasher Blood Rage.
So, do you have a slash while talking about this at the urinal?
I slash something.
Or do you slash
end
blood
up
rage?
in tears, if you know what I mean.
Is that because of the blood rage?
That's yeah. Let's not go into that. That's too revealing. But the guy who made that film, John Grissmer, also directed this super sleazy Southern Gothic masterpiece known as Scalpel. Also known as False Face, if you're looking it up on IMDb for some reason.
You're being very sleazy on this daddy-daughter episode.
It's such a weird film. Arrow have put it out on Blu-ray, and that's what I watched it on. And it is they've actually got two cuts because there's the DOP went for this kind of weird color grading, like a more Southern Gothic style, and Arrow kind of, when they restored it, they put both on the disc, so you
they
can
cleaned
see
it
them
up,
both.
or
but they cleaned it up to make it look more kind of bright and normal.
No,
but it actually, that's the version I prefer.
Really?
It looks.
I mean, I wouldn't know.
It's a lot nicer to watch. But this movie, it's totally bizarre, but fantastic, just like Blood Rage. So basically, the movie starts on at a funeral where this old cantankerous kind of patriarch of this family has died, and in his will, he's left his son, who is a disappointment because he's kind of a drunk and a failed politician. He's left him his dog because his dog exhibits all the virtues that his son never possessed of like loyalty and affection, and his son-in-law, who he blames for his daughter's death, nothing.
Right.
But the granddaughter he's left her the remainder of his fortune, which is like $5 million, and this kind of Gothic mansion in the kind of, I don't know where it is. The only problem is, a year prior to this, the daughter, the father, who is a plastic surgeon by trade, and he's like quite a charismatic kind of cool guy, played by Robert Lansing, had a falling out over one of the daughter's boyfriends and his subsequent death. and she took off and disappeared. So there's no one around to claim this $5 million.
Right.
And despite the fact that Robert Lansing is loaded and a very successful plastic surgeon, he still wants that $5 million. So one day when he's out with a buddy of his, they stumble upon this girl who's been badly beaten. You see, she's come out of some kind of a strip club, and she's had the shit beaten out of her by the bouncer, who's literally like smashed her face into a brick wall.
Awful.
And so they pick her up and they take her to the hospital, and he kind of, her face is totally destroyed. And when he's kind of talking to her, she doesn't want to tell him her name. She doesn't want to show him a picture of who she looked like. She kind of, doesn't want to call anyone. She's like bereft.
Yeah.
And he kind of, hatches onto the idea that if he makes her look like his daughter,
right,
then they can claim the $5 million from the lawyer.
Oh my God.
And so basically, and he gets her in on the scheme.
Yeah.
And then as the movie kind of progresses, you find out that he indeed was responsible for the death of her daughter's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like he kind of drowns him in the pool in his backyard
Sounds
after
like
he comes out
hardcore version
from
of the dentist or something.
making love to his daughter.
Yeah.
And he is also, like the grandfather is right, he is responsible for the death of his wife.
Yep.
And there's a great scene where his wife's out swimming in the pool, and in the lake.
Yep.
And she runs into trouble, and she's like, "Help! Help! Help!" And he's just in one of those little kind of those things that you sit in with the paddles.
The paddle boats, yeah.
The paddle, like the the ones that you get on Emerald Lake and stuff.
paddle boats.
He's sitting in one of those, just kind of watching, just like doing circles around her while she drowns. He's a total, he's a total monster.
Wow.
So he kind of they hatch this plan, and everything goes well. They agree to split the money 50-50. But then it gets weird because she kind of develops feelings for him, and he returns those feelings. Next thing you know, they're a banging, and it looks like he's banging his daughter.
Yeah. Wow.
And
it's twisted.
Yeah, it's totally like he's got this kind of weird obsession with her. But then it gets even worse because then daughter shows up again after a year, and now he's got two of them. And there's even one scene where the two girls are talking, and the daughter's like that he can't tell us apart. Like, what if I just wore your clothes and pretended to be you? He'd never know. And the other girl's like, well, yeah, that would last all the way up until bedtime. But it is
cool.
It is super sleazy, and like Robert Lansing he's incredibly charismatic, but so twisted.
Mate.
It is excellent, like incredibly entertaining. Like I highly recommend like everyone to watch this
You've
film.
given me a double feature to watch.
Like it is fucking amazing.
That's
like
what you've done.
and it just like right from the start, you kind of there's no point in the movie where you're like, just get on with the setup already. Like I get it. Like it is just pure entertainment all the way through.
I'm going to watch that too. Thank you, mate. What's left to say? Not a lot. Let's sign off with the reminder to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. There you go. Social media, we're on there. We carry on throughout the week with special bonus content videos and all that kind of stuff. This week, as Ben said at the start of the show, we're going to do a review or a reaction to Halloween Ends, the final chapter in the Halloween H40 trilogy. So that'll be fun. Massive thank you to Michael Lombardi for having that chat with me about Retaliators. It's a good movie. Check that out. And, of course, thank you to the team players, Jarrett, Guillermo, Joe, Chad, and James. And also thank you to Melzi and Chloe, whose work on the show continues sort of behind the scenes. And Melzi's going to be back on in a few weeks' time. And Chloe will be with me on Wednesday night. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Come back next week. Next week's going to be a good show, Ben. We're talking about nuclear fallout films. And our special guest is the director of possibly the greatest Fallout film of all time, Testament. Her name's Lynn Littman. And
I thought you were going to say Steve DeJarnay. Talking about Miracle Miles. Like, I didn't know you got in.
We can't wait to chat about her, about the incredible 1983 film Testament. It's so good. Anyway, any excuse now, Ben, to play a Flaming Lips song will be taken on this show, and I am about to leave the leave the people with Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, and that's from the Definitely Maybe soundtrack. And that's a fun little daddy-daughter movie that few people seem to talk about or remember, but it's kind of like an American version of Love Actually, that one. It's strange.
Never seen it.
Oh, I like it a lot. I think you'd like it a lot too. Anyway, have some Pink Robots, people. We'll see you next week. It's going to be a fun one. Ciao.
Bye.
Her name is Yoshimi. She's a black belt in karate, working for the city. She has to discipline her body, 'cause she knows that it's demanding to defeat those evil machines. I know she can beat them. Oh, Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots eat me. Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots defeat me. Those evil-natured robots, they're programmed to destroy us. She's gotta be strong to fight them, so she's taking lots of vitamins, 'cause she knows that it'd be tragic if those evil robots win. I know she can beat them. Oh, Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots defeat me. Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots eat me. Yoshimi. Cause you know that it'd be tragic if those evil robots win. Yeah, I know that she can beat them. Oh, Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots defeat me. Yoshimi, they don't believe me, but you